Welcome all to this fantabulous show, a new series with a very famous author and writer, and uh, and you will be revealed her name a little bit later. So she has written some excellent books. She's a writer, author, and her last book on the saffron uh, issue, and there are many other things. I'm going to forward you the link. But before I introduce you to her, I would like to explain one thing about her, that she has been able to influence a large number of Hindu youth towards Vedic culture. And like all of us here at Sattology, we are all famous for debunking all kinds of mythology. So by hearing her, you will strengthen your viewpoints and also bring amazing clarity in your discussion with your peers. So without delay, I'll bring you on the show, Miss Manoshi Rawal Sinha. So welcome,
Nano.
Manoshi ji.
Namaskar and Vande Mataram.
Vande Mataram. So before this is the first session with us, so we always want to introduce you to us and also to the other audience. So how do you describe yourself?
Yeah, I am Manoshi Sinha Rawal. I am from Assam and UP, Uttar Pradesh. And I am an author of 8 books, and the latest being Saffron Swords. I am also an independent researcher on Indian history and archaeology. And I am an avid heritage traveler visiting the ancient and medieval era temples, especially those temples which are in ruins across the country, which need urgent attention for restoration and maintenance. I'm also the founder of myindiamyglory.com, an e-magazine that focuses on primarily focuses on Indian history and heritage from the ancient period till the present. And besides that, I'm also a blogger. I write my key areas, the key themes are temples and history from ancient to present.
I think
That's my.
I think based on description, you fit right into our what we do. So there is a synergy in everything that we do. We are here for saving temples, spreading Sanatan Dharma in the US, and also preserving historical places in India. So
Yes.
So we are all doing the same thing, but on two different
Yeah.
parts of the world.
Also spreading the right historical narrative, because what we have been reading in our textbooks since the last 70 plus years is a one-sided narrative, a distorted chronology, historical chronology. So I'm here like it is like I'm just one drop in the vast ocean trying to spread the right historical narrative.
Yeah, all of us are, and then by putting drops each, we can fill a bucket, and ultimately.
Yes, it's a collective effort. I'm also very glad Sattology is doing great work in this field. And I'm also thankful to Sattology for inviting me to speak for to have a one-on-one discussion on saffron sports in particular and Indian history in general.
So at Sattology, we call them faith-based colonists. So people who in India, they conquered India, they were guided by their faith more than anything else, and ultimately it was economic gains. So what do you have to comment on that?
Yeah, right from the 8th century, like initially we have been looted, plundered, and uh, since the 8th century, and for 1000 years, and then followed by another 200 years of colonial rule. So the first 1000 years, the loot and plunder were done by Islamic invaders, and they committed genocide of Hindus, Buddhists, Sikhs, numbering to millions. They destroyed our heritage structures. They razed thousands, in fact, lakhs of temples to the ground. They destroyed the murtis. They looted the temple wealth. They looted the treasury of the forts and fortresses. They looted the treasury of the rulers. They plundered villages. They destroyed crops. And then the British, they further looted our wealth, and they, both the invaders, they tried to destroy our culture, our civilization. But since the last like 1300 years, from the 8th century till 1947, lakhs of our warrior ancestors, they fought consistently, and they saved Dharma and the motherland. And as the result we see today, despite 1300 years of such torture and atrocities on our culture, on our civilization, on our people, we still comprise around 80% of the Indian population today. 80%, 75 to 80% are still Sanatanis. This is because our warrior ancestors saved our great, great, great grandparents.
No, I think that there were attacks of two kinds. So one was the loot and the plunder, and I think you have mentioned in one part of your book that Afghanistan was an integral part of Bharat before the Islamic invasion started.
Yes, yes, yes. The Islamic invaders, they actually, we are the oldest surviving civilization in the world, and many civilizations, they perished because of the Islamic invasion. And they converted all of the people in those nations to Islam. But in India, they couldn't do that. Yes, they did convert lakhs of our people to Islam, but they did not fully, like, they could not fulfill their goal fully,
Yeah.
because our own people, they stuck to their faith and they defended Dharma.
Yeah, and then because they could not convert, so they engaged in untold, and they're still doing that, like violence which cannot be described in a civilized society.
Yes, yes. Those who converted, they were spared. Those who did not convert, those who refused to convert, they were brutally tortured to death.
Yes.
For example, Timur, during his invasion, he whoever converted to Islam, he spared them, and whoever did not convert, he took them captives. So by the time he reached Delhi, he had 1 lakh Hindu captives, and then he executed all of them, all the 1 lakh people. And in Delhi, there were like several hills created out of the executed heads of the Hindus, the executed bodies of the Hindus. So this is that Timur's example. That's just one example. There have been many such examples of brutality and torture by the invaders on the Indian population.
And then the audacity of some Bollywood stars is that they name their son on the killer, Temur. Some Bollywood star.
No comments on that.
But anyway, so coming back to this historical narration, so you're
Uh-huh.
absolutely right. The entire Persia, the Mahabharat name for Persia is Parsik, and
Hmm.
and later on the Greeks could not say Parsik, so they call it Parsia, and
Hmm.
then
Hmm.
Parsi. So our connection with Iran is that it was a intrinsically territory of Arjun, according to Mahabharat itself.
Hmm.
Now,
Hmm.
coming, so it took them, so Iraq, Iran, Armenia, Turkmenistan, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, these are all part of Parsik. And,
Hmm. Hmm.
and the religion was very closely tied to Hinduism called Zoroastrianism. So it
Hmm. Hmm.
took them just 15 to 17 years to conquer these lands.
Hmm. Hmm.
But Kabul,
And they completely finished off the
correct,
entire part. They culturally finished off.
completely.
They culturally destroyed everything there. Hmm.
Because those people, they assumed them as friends, and so these people burned their temples. And even today in Iran, if you
Hmm.
go
Hmm.
to Iran, they don't let any of these people survive. They have to hide in the
Yes,
temple.
Yes.
One community which remained untouched was Yazidi. And yes, they consider still themselves as from India, and the brutality of same mindset, same Islamic looters on them in the modern day
Hmm.
space, it happened in just last 5 years, still there.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Now, coming from when they came from Persia to Afghanistan, it took them, Kabul took almost like 400 to 500 years, you mentioned in your book, something like
Hmm.
that. So,
Actually, my book actually celebrates the valor of 52 of our warrior ancestors from the 8th century till 1947. And the warrior ancestors were both men and women from each and every corner of Bharat. So there are 52 episodes of valor in the book.
I'm going to definitely buy a book for a library, Sattology, if it's
Sure.
available. I think it's available in the US also. So we'll definitely keep.
Not not available in the US, but it can be shipped from India. So you'll have to get in touch with Garud Prakashan, the publisher.
Yes, I know Ankurji.
So
I'll ask him.
yeah, Ankur Pathak and Sankrant Sanoji.
Yes,
So Garud Prakashan also ships books to destinations worldwide. So
yes.
that's how Saffron Swords has reached many readers across the world.
So viewers, you must buy this book called Saffron Swords by Manoshi Sinha Rawal. Now, my next question to you is: in the other books that you have written, so
Mhm.
what is the so one thing you already told us that you want to tell the right history, which is very important. So, how good is history in building the identity of a person?
See, I would like to quote Marcus Garvey, a Jamaican born political leader and social activist. He said, he has rightly said, a country's people without the knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots. So that is true for each and every citizen of every country across the world. So that is true for India as well. But what has happened in the Indian context is we have we have been deprived of our past history, heritage, our culture in our educational curriculum. So when we grow up, we tend to read only about the invaders. So in that case, we may be like we may suffer from this inferiority complex, and we even most of the youth that I came across, they don't want to remember the past 1000 years, because they have been taught, we have been taught that our ancestors did not offer any resistance, we were always defeated, we were losers, and the invaders easily invaded our lands and they ruled us. So that's the narrative that is there in our history textbooks in school and college. So how to do away with that one-sided narrative? Besides that, there is no much description about our ancient history, our ancient cultural heritage, and our medieval cultural history also in our textbooks. So there is a false narrative being spread that the Ramayana and the Mahabharata are mythology.
Absolutely.
But in reality, they are historical events. The colonial historians and even our own people, they consider the Vedic era to have started from around 1500 BCE. So even if you go to a Wikipedia page and look for the timeline of the Vedic era, then you will be transported to 1500 BCE to around 600 BCE. But the fact is that going by the literary evidences available with us, the Vedic era starts at least around 15,000 BCE, or even beyond that also. So uh, it is around 17,000 years old, Vedic era. 17,000 years ago it started. Then after the Vedic era comes the Mahabharata period. We have the example of Ram Setu in front of us. Even scientists from the USA, they have proven through carbon dating and through their analysis, research analysis, that the Ram Setu is not natural, it is man-made. And according to the carbon dating, it was built some 7,500 to 8,000 years ago. And then the Mahabharata events took place around 5,000 to 6,000 years ago. So after that came the various dynasties that ruled India in across the country. And right from the Cholas to the Pandyas to the Mauryas, the Guptas, and then we have medieval period. But all of these are completely ignored. Completely, they are not described. These things are not described in our history textbooks. Besides that, we have lacks of evidences of our glorious cultural past in the form of temples. We have historical evidences related to the same, but all of these are not there in our history textbooks. Like Firista has written in his book how during the 17 raids by Mahmud of Ghazni, he destroyed thousands of temples. And in Mathura itself, he destroyed around 4 or 5 temples that were around 4,000 years old during that time. So those temples were razed to the ground. If those temples had been there, then today we would have boasted that, see, we have these temples which are 5,000 years old. So because Mahmud of Ghazni, he invaded, he plundered India, parts of India around 1,000 years ago. So those temples, if hadn't been destroyed by Mahmud of Ghazni, those temples would have been standing evidences of our thousands of years old civilizational identity, cultural identity. So all of these things are not there in our history textbooks. Besides that, we have a distorted chronology being taught to us in our textbooks. Because as I told, the chronology starts from 1500 BCE, whereas the chronology should start, according to literary evidences, chronology should start at least from 15,000 BCE. So 10,000 years have been dropped. 1 0 has been dropped. And if we go by archaeological evidences, then we have traces of human habitation and painting that dates back from the medieval period to 1 lakh years in the Bhimbetka caves in Madhya Pradesh. And then in Andhra Pradesh, in Jwalapuram, excavations led to the discovery of implements and tools that date back to 75,000 years to 1,50,000 years. So these archaeological evidences are standing proofs of our thousands of years old civilizational identity. Then there have been excavations in the Narmada river belt. There has been excavations in the Saraswati river belt, the Indus Valley river belt. All of these excavations introduce us about how old our civilization is. So despite a lot of literary and archaeological evidences, yet we are taught the wrong history, a distorted history.
No, absolutely right. I think you put so many points that we all firmly believe in. The large Sattology community always believes in that. You put so many points. And one of the things that I want to add for you, the carbon dating technology has been proved to be incorrect, has been scientifically rejected by the Western archaeologists nowadays. And so they are working on new archaeologists. And I usually tell people, I go by what Vyasa says or Valmiki says. But the proof of disputing that is yours, not mine. I already have a viewpoint. And one of the things which I always do in the American education system is that I quote only Indian authors. I don't quote any outside. First of all, I quote Valmiki, Vyasa. So one of the things Vyasa writes in the beginning of Mahabharata, that any history that doesn't begin or finds its origin in Mahabharata is fake. So the first fake news, the title was given by Vyasa to everyone else.
Mm.
But you're doing a fabulous work here, and you're this particular, the 52 heroes that you have done. I would like to know more about it. Now, one last question to you, and before, I know it's very late for you. So,
Okay, so we can. It's 9:42, so we can continue for another 15 minutes till 10 o'clock. It's fine.
so if I ask you, who is your favorite hero out of these 52, then can you name one?
All the 52 heroes and heroines are important for not only me, but for you also and for each and every Bharatiya. Because all of these 52 warriors fought, they offered resistance, they fought till their last breath, and they defended Dharma in the motherland. So, but I cannot describe all the 52 warriors in this session. So, as you suggested, I should pick one story. So, I would love to narrate this historical story of Raja Prithu of Assam. So, all of us are very familiar with Bakhtiyar Khilji. Bakhtiyar Khilji was the plunderer who destroyed 4 of our ancient universities, including Telhara University, Vikramshila University, and Nalanda University. So when we speak about Nalanda University, according to Tibetan resources, according to Buddhist resources, and according to our own historical records, according to the students who studied in Nalanda University before it was destroyed. So according to those records, Nalanda University at the time of attack by Bakhtiyar Khilji had around 10,000 students and 2,000 teachers. And the university had 4 multi-story libraries, multi-story. And one of the libraries was 9-storied. And all of these 4 multi-story libraries stored manuscripts right from the Vedic period, right from the Vedas to uh, manuscripts on philosophy, on Ayurveda, on yoga, and on Buddhism, and a lot many topics from the ancient period till that particular period. And what Bakhtiyar Khilji did, he destroyed the university. He executed all the teachers and the students. Only a few of the teachers and students could escape alive. And he set fire to all the 4 multi-story libraries. The manuscript burned for days together. So according to different records, the manuscripts burned for over 3 months. So you can well imagine the vast loss of our knowledge heritage. So when the excavators, they excavated the site of Nalanda, they came across layers of ash. Then the ash was that of the manuscripts that were burned. And so this Bakhtiyar Khilji, besides destroying these universities, he also destroyed more heritage sites. He committed genocide of thousands of Hindus. He also converted many to Islam, forcefully converted them to Islam. And after that, he marched towards Kamrupa. Kamrupa is Assam today. So in those times, Assam was known as Kamrupa. So Raja Prithu was then the ruler of Kamrupa, Assam. So there is an inscription in Kanai Borasi in Kamrupa in Guwahati. And this inscription describes about the defeat of Bakhtiyar Khilji in the hands of that Assam ruler. So when we speak about evidences, there are a little bit of literary evidences, but there is inscriptional evidence about the defeat of Bakhtiyar Khilji in Assam by the then Assam ruler. So inscriptions can never be wrong. So we have this both literary and inscriptional evidences that justify this the truth of this story, historical story. So Raja Prithu defeated Bakhtiyar Khilji so badly that Bakhtiyar Khilji, who went with thousands of soldiers, could somehow return uh, back to his kingdom in Bengal with only a few soldiers. He somehow survived. And he was so badly wounded that after that failed Assam expedition, he could no longer commit any loots or plunders. So is this story of valor is so important to all of us because Raja Prithu defeated Bakhtiyar Khilji, the destroyer of our universities. And this tale is missing in our history textbooks. So Raja Prithu's story is described in Saffron Source. And likewise, 51 more episodes of valor described in the book. So
seems like a very well-researched book. And also few things you mentioned there about Wikipedia, and also I think Wikipedia, most of the articles are written by very ultra leftist
uh,
Islam.
just interrupting about Wikipedia, I quoted for the timeline, for the Vedic timeline that is quoted by many people also when they write about the Vedic era, they quote Wikipedia. So Wikipedia quotes the Vedic era timeline at around 1500 to 600 BCE.
Correct.
So regarding that, I quoted the Wikipedia example.
No, Wikipedia is generally also considered a propaganda machine.
Yes,
It's
true.
a propaganda machine by the faith-based colonialists. See, they are trying to find relevance for their own faith. It is nothing to do with us. They're trying to prove that they are bona fide and genuine. But the history will expose them more and more because people are already questioning whether some of their key people were already ever existed or not. That is also being questioned now. So the entire calculation of AD and BC is already questioned and not relevant also nowadays. As far as I am concerned, when Krishna left the planet, and based on our own Vaishnav calendar or Hindu calendar, Panchang, whatever it is, that is the day Kali Yuga begins. And I think from there we have to maintain that historical record, and then we'll find that many of the stories about Buddha, all these stories are planted. You know, the coincidence of Buddha and Jesus appearing at the same time is a planted story, and it doesn't
Yeah,
have.
I just want to interrupt in this matter. So there is a book called The Chronology of India by Vedbir Arya. Vedbir Arya has done a deep research studying the Puranas, and uh, he has based his studies on oceanographic studies, on epigraphs, on inscriptions, and a lot of more evidences. So based on that, he has given the timeline of not only Indian history but also world history. So what you have said, and another thing is, when you chronologically describe history, you will have to mention the rulers who ruled from. Suppose our literary history started from the Vedic period. So if you're putting 1500 BCE as the timeline, as the start of the Vedic period, then we also need a record of all the kings who ruled from that period till the present. So Vedbir Arya has given a very detailed account of all the rulers who ruled right from that period, from Manu to Mahabharata and from Mahabharata to the medieval period.
Absolutely.
So please go through that book. So, and Vedbir Arya, he is the writer of that book, Chronology of India. And he has what you have mentioned about the birth of Jesus and about Buddha. So he has written in that book that all the distortions in our dates, not only of Indian chronology but also of world chronology, is because of the distortions in Buddha, Nirvana, and the birth of Jesus.
Correct. The
He was given at the correct timeline. So what we have been reading as a present, the AD and BC, before Christ and after Christ, these are all wrong.
Absolutely.
Wrong dates.
Totally, this entire date correction is wrong. And I think Manoshi ji, you are such a wealth of knowledge I would like to invite you again and again. Our students are loving it, and I can see there are 26 people joined live because this is a little late for them on this day. They have to go for classes, but this recorded session definitely will be going to a much larger audience. Now, one last question: if I was to give you a choice of uh, correcting the history of India or trying to debunk the mythology, which one will you choose?
Debunking mythology is more important. Once you debunk mythology, then automatically the history will be corrected.
That's right. That's right. Thank you so much, and we would like to invite you again whenever we get a chance. And I love this session. So you have presented so much history, and also the story of King Prithu was phenomenal. I think the viewers will love it. And thank you so much for your time. And we'll again connect back in the next episode of this series. Namaskar.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Aditya ji. Thanks, Sattology. Namaskar, Vande Mataram.
Namaste. Vande Mataram.